inspiration plus innovation plus execution equals transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, episode 29, How to Be a Fit Leader with Josiah Novak. Hey everybody, it's Scott McCarthy, your host and founder of the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. Welcome to a leadership podcast for anybody and everybody, basically. It's a podcast. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're in corporate business, if you're a nonprofit, or if you're a stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home mom. It doesn't matter. You know why? Because we all need leadership in your life. And this weekly podcast is here designed to help you gain those skills, okay? I'm Scott McCarthy. I'm your host and founder. I'm bringing this podcast to you with over 20 years of leadership experience, and I'm going out there and grabbing the best guests that I can get my fingers on to expand and talk about subjects which I have absolutely no idea about, or topics that I just find really interesting and think it would be a lot of value added to you. Today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about fitness. But before I dive into the actual episode, and don't run away right now if you just heard that. This is not going to be an episode where we're going to be talking about how we get bulked up, how we get gains bro, none of that stuff. No, this episode, myself and Josiah, the conversation we have is nothing about that type of thing. It's all about the benefits that you will get through fitness, but as a leader, all the mental type benefits and ways that you can incorporate fitness into your daily life, into your routine to be a better leader. Ways that you can start being more fit right now as you're basically listening to this podcast than what you are right now, okay? So there's none of those gains, how many reps you should be doing, none of that type of stuff. No, it's all about the benefits. If you want to learn about all that other stuff, well then at the end of the podcast, or you can just skip to the show notes, you're going to see all Josiah's info and all that jazz. And from there, you can go ahead and start listening to him, start following him, because he is the man to tell you all about that. But anyway, I digress for the moment. I just want to talk to you about a few different things out there. And first off, thanks for listening. Podcast is definitely shooting up more than I ever expected. So there's new listeners out there right now. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Be sure to subscribe, because this podcast it's not just a show per se, but it's a library, right? And it's a resource for you, because all the topics, they're always and constantly different. So subscribe so that you don't miss an episode on a topic that may be extremely pertinent to what you do on a daily basis. But I just wanted to bring your attention a couple different things out there that I got going on, a few different resources, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of what the episode coming up is all about. So the first thing I just wanted to say is swing by the website, that's movingforwardleadership.com, and sign up for the monthly newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter so that you get notification of when a new episode's released. You get a monthly newsletter from myself personally, not some VA or anything like that. No, it's me personally writing this and talking about behind the scenes things that are up and coming with Moving Forward Leadership. Podcasts that are released, articles that I've written throughout the month, and so on and so forth. Things that you may not necessarily get by simply just following the podcast, okay? And the second thing that I'd like to mention today is the Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind on Facebook. So if you go to facebook.com/groups/Moving Forward Leadership, what you're going to find is the Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind. And this is a community where you can come and talk leadership. And guess what the big cool thing is with this? All the guests, well, not all, but almost all the guests are in there, which is awesome. You won't find that anywhere else. Tell me another podcast where they have a central location where you can go and interact with the guests of the show. I don't know of one. I will eat humble pie if you show me one, but right now I'm going to claim that that trophy as being the only podcast out there where you can actually go and interact with 95% of the guests that have been on the show. Guys like Terrence Hughes, Tyrone Matheson, John Conrad, oh God, there's so many I can't even think of all of them off my head. Rebecca is in there, and you know what? You haven't even heard from her yet. She'll be in there. Heather Younger. And it keeps going, okay? Anyway, all I say is there's a load of guests in there. There's a load of people in there. And I post things in there which you don't hear about as well. For example, right before recording this, I did a live video about 2 different personal development loops. And you have no idea what the heck I'm talking about. So, weren't you in the mastermind? Go to the link. Again, it's in the show notes or facebook.com/groups/moving forward leadership and sign up so you don't miss out. All right, that's all I'm going to talk about today regarding resources. Let's dive into today's episode. So, why are we talking about fitness? Again, I've talked about this a few times in various episodes, but we're talking about fitness because it is a cornerstone to being an effective leader. No, you don't have to be absolutely ripped with a 6 or 8 pack, chisel chest, all that jazz. No, but as you'll hear in the episode, there are numerous mental and physical benefits of being physically active, and not necessarily completely fit, but at least being active that you'll gain. And I even talk about the benefits I personally see as a leader when I go and do my workout. So Josiah Novak is my guest today. You'll hear all about his story, and it's definitely a rough ride. It's been a rough ride, but he's built something now which is absolutely incredible. He'll talk about his abusive relationship with his father, battling depression, putting on 80 pounds, losing how he turned himself around, lost that weight, and now has basically developed his own company where he teaches people and coaches people how to be fit both online and in person. On top of that, he has his own podcast named the Fit Man Project Podcast. Again, all this stuff is going to be in the show notes. If you go to movingforwardleadership.com/podcast/Novak, Novak. All these links are going to be in there, okay? And the final thing which I'd like to mention, and I mentioned it near the end of the episode, but I'll mention it straight up front. Full disclosure in that I am a client of Josiah's. I sign up to his True Transformation Inner Circle, and I just want to throw that out there. And it's not that he's on this show because I'm a client of his and we're doing a favor for each other. It's none of that. It's that because I truly believe what he has to say, and I believe it's value added for the audience out there, okay? So that's why he's here. There's none of this under the table business at all. But Josiah, if you feel like giving me a little kickback on a month or 2, let me know. Just joking, of course. But yeah, that's pretty well it. All right, I'm going to shut up now. Enjoy the interview. Enjoy the show with me and Josiah Novak talking about how you can be a fit leader. Josiah, man, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. It's great to have you on.
Hey, dude, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I've been following your stuff for a while now, and it's like, yeah, I got to get this guy on and talk to the listeners out there. Before we dive into the nuts and bolts of the show here, why don't you just give a quick background about who you are, how you got to where you are today, because it's definitely an interesting story.
Yeah, I have a couple twists to the story. I mean, it kind of started out when I was a young kid. I was raised in a military family. My dad was in the Navy, and he was a huge proponent of health and fitness. I can remember him waking up early and doing push-ups, pull-ups, and running. And it's just something that I kind of grasped at an early age that I needed to be active. But in reality, part of my high activity youth was due to the fact that we were extremely poor growing up. We didn't have any kind of video games or TV or anything. I mean, my entertainment was running outside, pretending to be a superhero or an athlete of some kind, and chasing after my 5 younger brothers and sisters because I'm the oldest of 6. And so I was pretty active from an early age, but coupled with the fact that I was raised in a very abusive household. My dad was a functional alcoholic or a functioning alcoholic, whatever you call it. And his way of taking out his frustration and anger was by pushing me and my brothers and sisters around, specifically me, because I was the oldest of 6 and I was kind of the guinea pig, and maybe it's my hard-headedness that sparked some kind of rage in him. But it was, an early age that I had this desire to be stronger, right? Because I just wanted to feel secure that I could stand up to not just my dad, but the social circles that I rolled in. I didn't ever feel really at place, right? I always kind of felt like, man, I'm missing something. My parents are poor. My dad hates me. It feels like, he's always yelling or hitting me or whatever. And I said, man, I just want to have something I can grasp onto. So when I was old enough, probably around the age of 13 or 14, I was big into sports. That was kind of my refuge. But there came a time where I looked around and a lot of the guys that I played sports with seemed to be bigger than me, right? And there were comments made like, hey, Josiah, you're good, man, but you need to get bigger, right? Like you need to add some muscle. And so all this kind of came to a head. I'm like, okay, I want to get stronger to stand up to my dad. I like working out. It makes me feel good. I like running around, and I need to get better at sports. And so I joined my first gym, and it became truthfully the place where my life was saved. I going to the gym every day became a habit at a very early age. I mean, I used to leave practice, come home, do some homework, leave the house because once again, at the time of me joining a gym, it was like my parents were getting a divorce. There was fighting in the house. There was chaos. And so getting out of the house, getting into the gym quickly became like my favorite thing to do. Right.
Yeah.
And so this was at an early age. This was around 14, 13 years old. And from 14 to about 18 when I went to college, working out was like a daily staple in my life. I mean, it was school, high school, side jobs, whatever I had, homework, and gym. That was like all I did. And I played sports, and I ended up going to college on a baseball scholarship, of all things, and quickly tore my rotator cuff my second year in college. And yeah, and so
that's not fun.
Yeah, when your dream is to play professional baseball, it's, I didn't really have a career path. I thought, well, if baseball doesn't work out, maybe I'll be a lawyer, but I had no idea how to, sit still in school for longer than 5 minutes. So I was like, okay, I got to go through this rehab process now. And training for rehab is much different than just training for muscle or training for sports of some kind. It takes a lot of patience. There's a lot of, frustrating moments. And, a lot of people start to hate working out after rehab, and some people fall in love with it. And I was one of the people that fell in love with helping other people. And, from the help that I got from my injury, helping other people get in better shape, right? Getting stronger, making sure their body was where it needed to be. And so at the time when I was, repairing my rotator cuff, my career was pretty much done. I just kind of fell out of love with the game of baseball, and I needed a job because I had so much free time now because I wasn't playing sports. I was in the gym, and a guy who's still to this day my best friend tells me, "Hey man, I see you. You used to play sports. You're rehabbing. You're in here all the time. What's up? Like, what's going on?" I said, well, I'm just, trying to get my shoulder better. And he said, well, I'm a trainer here at the gym. Would love to tell you about some things we have going on. And long story short, he actually recruited me to be a personal trainer at the college campus gym. And so I did a couple tests. I got my certification. I became a trainer, man. And that was where my professional fitness career started, right? I started getting paid to train people, and it was cool. For me, the funny thing was it was probably more selfish on my part because being a trainer on campus kind of gave me some social status, right? As funny as it sounds, those early days of being abused and not really feeling like I belonged in social circles, walking around campus and people yelling out, "Hey dude, you're the trainer," or "Hey man, I'll see you in the gym." That was such a boost to my self-confidence, right? Like I felt, man, yeah, like I'm
getting validated.
I'm worth something. Yeah, exactly. And so I was learning, I had very little knowledge back then about nutrition or workouts. I just knew from, playing sports, like, okay, you should be active and you should do these movements. Man, I was a newbie. right? And so it took some time, and I moved up to where I am now outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia. And I continued my personal training career, but I quickly realized that in order to be a corporate gym trainer, you had to work some insane hours, early mornings, late nights, 50, 60 hours a week if you wanted to make good money. And I quickly got burnt out. And so a client of mine that I was training up in this area said, hey, man, I run a very successful financial planning business. You're good at sales. And I still had no idea I was good at sales, but he was like, you're good at sales. You sold me, right? You know what you're talking about. You're very personable. You can, probably take a couple tests and become a financial planner. And I'll help you start your own practice. It doesn't take a lot to get off the ground. You can rent an office space and you're off to the races. And I said, man, that sounds cool. In my head, I'd probably recently watched Boiler Room, right? And I'm thinking, I'm like, hell yeah, dude. I'm going to get some Lamborghinis and some suits, and I'm going to be out, drinking and having a blast. And once again, though, I was kind of just trying to bury this insecurity, right? Like, oh, I don't have enough money, or oh, I'm not successful, or something was missing, something was missing in my life. And it was this insecurity that had been boiling beneath the surface since I was a kid, and I tried to fill the void with working out, and, that did great things for my confidence and helped me get on a career path, but something still felt like it was missing. So I jumped into that arena. I started my own business, and it failed miserably, man. It was like 2007, 2008 when the market crashed. I was a 22-year-old kid, just trying to sell investments to people who were like, who is this kid? And
worst time ever to do it.
Yeah, it was an absolute disaster. And I went from making, barely, I was living paycheck to paycheck as a trainer. And I went from that to temporarily making a nice chunk of money because I was selling some pretty big products. But that quickly came to a crash when people started cashing in on their life insurance, started cashing out their investment accounts. And next thing you know, I'm in the negative like every month. And I was stressed. I'm 22. My mom was busy taking care of my 5 younger siblings. My dad, dude, I hadn't talked to my dad since I was like 13. And, so I felt lost, man. My best friend, who was a trainer, who actually lived in the same area, his life was taking a totally different direction. He got married, he had a kid, and I'm thinking, man, dude, what in the hell? Like, what did I get myself into? How did I get here? And without even really realizing it, man, I was eating away my stress. I was eating, I was sleeping a lot actually, because like you couldn't get appointments. If I couldn't get appointments with clients or nobody was taking my calls, I had this free time, and so I would order pizza and watch Netflix, hoping to God something was going to happen. And quickly, I looked, probably about 6 months back, and I realized I had gained about 80 pounds of fat, dude. I looked in the mirror, woke up, and was like, what happened?
Complete 180, eh?
Complete 180, dude. I went from this like athlete trainer who was in decent shape to this financial planner who, was wearing triple XL dress shirts, and I'm like, dude, this isn't me. I felt lost, dude. I was broke as a joke. At one point, all my bank accounts were negative. I lost my house because I had, jumped into the housing market when it was easy to get a house. And I quickly got evicted from that. I lost my car. I was driving a beater car because all I could afford was, $200, well, whatever it was. I think I spent like $500 on the car. And so I was struggling, man. And, not to say that my situation was any worse than a lot of people, but for a young kid who really just didn't have a lot of direction, didn't have a lot of support, it was devastating to me. And I remember sitting on my bed crying pretty much every night thinking, man, I think I just need to take my own life because nobody is going to reach out and help me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I had put my resume out there, and for whatever reason, the resume world just hadn't responded very favorably. And so I was lost, man. And I sat there and I was looking for jobs. And I remember being on the internet one day, and I came across this guy who was a fitness model who wasn't really talking about nutrition and workouts and stuff. He was talking about like mindset and how to change your life and how to get your life on track. And his name was Greg Plitt. And Greg actually about 3 or 4 years ago passed away, but he, at the time, inspired the hell out of me, man. Like I started watching his videos because I just had this time and I was looking for jobs and trying to get my life on track. And I started watching these inspirational videos, and 2 things happened. Number one, it inspired me not to like go transform my body and like become this incredible fitness model, but it got me off my ass, right? It was like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go back to the gym and do some cardio. And that's as much as I can muster today. Cool. I'll do that. The second thing it did was it inspired me to be like that guy, right? Like I said, okay, I want to be inspirational. I want to help people, but I got to first help myself, because this guy, Greg, is like getting in my head and making me feel good about myself when nothing else will, right? Yeah. And so I started going back to the gym. Like I said, it wasn't this crazy routine. I didn't become like Rambo overnight, but I started doing my little cardio routines, or I do some abs or whatever. And I remember walking out of the gym one day and I bumped into some people that I used to know from being a personal trainer. And they were like, dude, Josiah, I haven't seen you forever, man. Like, what happened? Are you still like a fitness guy? Like all this stuff. And this conversation, like in my head, had this like instant voice that was like, dude, you actually have impacted people. People remember you as this fitness guy, as somebody who used to help people, who was a trainer, who knew his stuff, who was dedicated to his craft. Like, you're fucking up, man. Like you know, you're wasting an opportunity. So in that moment, I knew, okay, I'm going to start a fitness company. I don't know what it's going to look like. I have no idea what I'm going to do. But the first thing I got to do is I got to get my life together. I got to take a job. Doesn't matter what job it is. I got to get a job. I got to transform my body. I got to lose this weight. And once I do all that, and once I get clarity on what I want to do for my mission, I'm going to start a fitness company, and I'm going to help people just like me. And it wasn't an overnight success. I didn't go, okay, I'm going to do that. And then, the music starts playing and like, boom, boom. I'm like this top-notch guy. It took years, right? It took years. Sure. Struggle, man. I got back into corporate America. It was a blessing in disguise. I learned marketing. I learned sales. I was doing a lot of cool stuff that I still utilize today. And coupled with that, man, I actually buckled down and became a student of the game with health and fitness. And that was about a 4 to 5 year process, because in 2014, I started kind of unofficially, but I started what is now my company, the TrueTransformation.com. And I started training people absolutely free. I didn't charge anybody a dime for quite some time, probably about a year and a half. And I was just sending them plans. I was coaching them. I was answering questions. They were teaching me, even though they didn't realize it, teaching me how to really, really dive in and help people from a behavioral standpoint. And I was getting my life together, man. I met my wife in 2014. Actually, tail end of 2012 we met, but we officially started dating around the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. Had my first kid in 2014. And it's been off to the races ever since, man. But my story is probably not an unusual one for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people go through struggles, but I think that in today's, especially the health and fitness space, there's a lot of highlight reels that people see, and they think that these people are absolutely perfect specimens, right? Like they came out of the womb, ripped, successful, and they just can't do anything wrong. Like even if they tried, man, they're not going to mess up. And the truth of the matter is it's probably far from the truth. Yeah. And so we just try to share, our truth, which is kind of one of the pieces behind true transformation, and then help people make a actual transformation, right? Actually, not just lose a few pounds, but become a better person by utilizing health and fitness, man. And so that's the long-winded story, bro. Let me get some coffee.
You go ahead. No, it's awesome. And I think there's truth there, right? Like you're not hiding anything. And that's a big difference. And people follow people on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And like you said, you just see the highlights, but they don't actually see the struggles in the background, and they just see the end result. Like, well, no, that probably took 5, 10, maybe 15, 20 years. We don't know how long that person actually was working towards getting that type of body or whatever. It doesn't matter. The Lamborghini or, the title of CEO, like, man, everything takes time. And I like to refer to it today. We're in a drive-through culture. We show up to the window, we order what we want. 30 seconds later, it's in our hand, and away we go.
Dude, that's so spot on. It's funny. I was watching a video on Instagram the other day. I don't know. I think my wife sent it to me, but it was this extremely intelligent and insightful guy who was talking about how we live in an Insta society, right? Yeah, Instagram, Insta food, Insta text, Insta everything. And what it does, it destroys the value that we place on things, right? It destroys because in order for value to be something we latch onto, or in order for us to have value for something, it takes time, man. Like, it's just like, when people talk about valuables, right? Over time, they become more and more valuable investments, or cars, or old school cars, or houses, or whatever. They become more valuable because of the time that passes, right? And the demand that will increase because of the value that's increased, right? And so if we just have something that gets handed to us, man, like if I just woke up, I'm like, wow, I have abs. That's so weird. And like all of a sudden my personality is just amazing. And like I make a video and I have like 10,000 customers, like, oh my gosh, like that, I'm not going to keep it, right? I'm going to lose that so quickly because there's no value. I don't value it at all. It's just something that magically appeared in my life. That's why lottery winners lose all their money, man. It's why the Biggest Loser challenge, people, if you talk to them a year later, have gained all the weight back. It's something they don't value.
You see the pictures of them like a year or two later, and I'd say a good 95% of them are back to square one or almost square one, right? Not where they ended off, that's for sure. But that's a totally different topic because I don't think that's actually sustainable the way that show is. That's done to make money and not actually change people's lives. I don't care what the hell they say.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So, you obviously went through a lot in your life and guaranteed a few stressful times in there. So what I'd like to do is touch on, for the listeners out there, how can being fit, exercising, all of that help reduce stress in their life? Because I know personally, and that it does help.
Yeah, man. I mean, exercise for me is one of my daily non-negotiables. Now, this doesn't mean that I, hit the gym like a maniac for an hour and a half and do some crazy workout every day. It just means that movement of some kind of activity is something I do every day. And the number one reason why, man, is truthfully because of stress relief. I have a business now that's pretty busy. I have my hands involved in other businesses, including my wife's. And I also have 2 little kids, right? And so my schedule from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep is pretty packed. And that might include downtime briefly, but it's pretty packed. And so working out, I've noticed the days that for whatever reason I miss a workout, my stress level is higher. And that's simply because as human beings, man, like we're really meant to move, right? We're meant to be active. And in fact, we're meant to be active for, many different reasons, but one of them is to help us just be stress free or have less stress. Because if you go back to, when we were, I hate to use the word caveman days, but like movement was such a natural thing, right? We would hunt for food. We would move our tribe to different places depending on, the safety of our current location. Maybe the seasons, right? Maybe if it's colder in one area, we would move to a warmer place. We would chase after our kids. There was no social media, man. There was nothing to distract us or keep us in our seats. There was no 9 to 5, It was constant movement. It was constant strengthening of our bodies to protect ourselves, right? And so I think what we experience now is this like deep-rooted stress that comes from not moving, right? It's like you got this feeling that like you should do it, but it's just you have this comfort level that comes from not moving, but in reality, you're actually increasing your stress. And so one thing too that a lot of people forget is that exercise doesn't just help you with your like physical like muscle and fat and all that stuff. It actually helps your brain. Like it really does help increase the strength of thought process. It helps increase, our nerve connections. It helps our brains fire more effectively. And that can lead to so many different things. That can lead to more confidence, obviously, in different situations. It can lead to clearer thinking. It can lead to creativity. I know for me, it's creativity. If I don't work out, man, my creativity starts to suffer. But as far as stress relief goes, I think, too, it's just the feeling and the endorphins that you get after a workout. There's this funny saying, I think that so something like there's never been a workout that you regret or whatever. It's like you leave the gym, and even if you hated getting to the gym or you kind of struggle through the workout, once it's done, you have this feeling of accomplishment and this like sigh of relief, like, wow, I had a big win just now, you know, and that can take stress down dramatically, and it can just help set you up for success in every other area, whether it's, you know, people always talk about the physical aspect, man, but I still feel like the physical aspect is such like it's like a cherry on top, you know. Everything else that comes from training and eating properly is so much more valuable. Everything from, you know, your relationship health, your business health, your, you know, health as an entrepreneur, or if you're an employee, your career health. All those things can be effective in a positive way, including stress relief. But, you know, one thing I do want to tell your listeners is that stress itself is not necessarily a bad thing. We all are going to have stress every day. There's no way to eliminate stress completely. In fact, working out is a form of stress, right? It's just forcing your body to change. That's what basically stress is, or whether it's your mind or your body, forcing it into a situation where it has to get out of its comfort zone. That's a form of stress. So the idea of completely eliminating stress is a false hope, right? It will never happen.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You have to just have a way of managing it, right? So you can have good stress, right, which is working out, and you can eliminate a lot of the bad stress, which is like the stress about, man, I have so much to do, or man, I have, you know, all these things I want to accomplish, but I'm such a failure. Like, those things can be eliminated and managed appropriately. And part of that is working out and taking care of your body, for sure.
No, that's great. And you go back to what you were saying there, guys showing up to the gym and struggling through a workout. And I always like to say, you know what, something's better than nothing. At least you get something in, right? And absolutely, you can't eliminate stress. It's impossible. But at least, you know, it's a release of that bad stress. So, no, whenever I hit the gym, actually, one of the reasons why I work out, I generally work out at lunchtime. And that's usually my midday point. And it's just to get through half the day, and then, all right, a little stress relief, and now I'm focused and ready to go, ready for round 2 of the day before I head home. So, and that kind of dovetails into the next question for you is, can you just talk about, you know, how it helps us focus better? I know I personally feel more focused after my workout at lunchtime. So can you just dive into that a bit for me?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that the number one thing to remember too is working out is a form of, you know, activity that does require focus, right? So, you know, you can't just go in the gym and like think about like all your to-dos and try to get like a good workout. Like, you have to, in the moment at least, think about, okay, how am I going to do this movement? Is my form good? You know, am I pushing to the desired number of reps, or am I pushing through, you know, the cardiovascular levels and all those things that you might be doing in the gym or at home or wherever you work out. And so it requires focus. So what you're really doing is you're forcing your brain to just practice focus, right? So when you're done with the gym, the brain's like, okay, what's next? Like, what's my next focus, right? And so you relieved yourself of some of the unwanted stress, the bad stress. You've maybe calmed yourself down a little bit by, you know, putting out some energy and busting your ass in the gym. And so you have a little bit more desired focus on the things that you want to accomplish. I also think too, habits and routines are such a big deal. So if you're in the habit of working out, right, and focusing on a workout, you know, whether it's once a day or once every other day, whatever your schedule is, that trains your brain then to be just better at focus on tasks at hand. You know, it's, you know, I know for me, I probably suffer and higher than a lot of people when it comes to distractions and like getting creative and like, okay, I'm going to do that and that and that. And then it's like, dude, you can't do, yeah, exactly. You can't do 30 things at once, man. It's like, yeah, I can. It's like, no, dude. So working out kind of forces you into a zone where it's really the only thing you can do. Yeah, you might be on your phone a little bit or thinking about what you got to do after your workout and stuff. But in the moments of training, it's pretty much all your brain can handle. And so it just puts you on that right track of like, okay, what's the next task I'm going to knock out and focus on for the next hour after I'm done my workout or whatever. And there's just so many, I mean, obviously we get deeper on the science aspect, but like that's the general way of thinking about training, is that it just gets you better at the habit and routine and the skill really of being a focused person and being able to dive into one thing at a time and knock it out.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, you know, it's so true. Like you get to the gym and you got to forget about everything else that's around back at the office, because you got to focus on not dropping the bar on your chest or your head or whatever.
Exactly.
But one of the cool things I find is that because I not forget, but I stop thinking about all the things I got to think about at the office. As soon as I get back, it's like, bam, it's instant clarity. It's like, oh, this is what I need to do for this. That's what I need to do. Hey, where the heck is that report? I think my guys hate 1:30 because all of a sudden I'm like, boom, boom, boom. Phone calls and emails are all on fire. It's just like, oh, boss, stop working out at lunchtime.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, it does so much too. Like, it kind of goes back to that whole like relieving of the bad stress, like you clear kind of the junk in your brain out, and you feel so good that like that feel good feeling kind of translates into everything else. You're like, cool, now I can do this, and I'm just like super productive. And yeah, man. And plus it boosts your energy. Like a really good workout can boost your energy for the next few hours at least. And so, after you leave the gym, you're like riding a natural high, you're like, man, I can do anything, it's just a really incredible feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So not everybody has access to a gym, at lunchtime like I do. What are some things that people can do when they're at work or they're at the office? Because I expect most of my audience are office workers, right? So what can they do to keep in shape while they're there?
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of sounding like a typical fitness person, it does start with nutrition, right? I mean, let's assume, I guess, for the sake of argument, that we've dialed in a solid nutrition strategy, and that might include whether it's bringing your food to work, or if you do go out to eat, making strong choices that fit your plan, right, and having a plan that's tailored to you. But assuming that's taken care of in the nutrition aspect, the most underrated form of exercise, man, is walking. Like, I know it sounds boring.
Hearing about that more and more every day lately. It's crazy.
Well, I've been on the walking track for a long time, but it is starting to become more mainstream. And it's funny because, the high intensity training kind of took over for a few years, and CrossFit was kind of all the rage. And while there is some benefit to that stuff, walking is still, in my opinion, probably the fastest way for people to get leaner and stay leaner, because there's, first of all, not a lot of energy expended when you walk. It's easy to do, right? A lot of people can just go for a walk. It doesn't require an extreme level of understanding of exercise movement. It doesn't require really anything besides your two legs and your ability to walk, right? It doesn't hinder recovery. So like if you work out and you train with weights a few times a week, and you might be a little sore here and there, if you try to tack on high intensity, like CrossFit style workouts to that, you might be really sore. You might be out of the game for a while, right? But walking actually can do a lot for recovery. It helps get the blood flowing. And also, kind of going back to the stress relief, it does help relieve stress, and it helps with mental clarity too. I know that a daily walk for me is like one of my secret things to success, because it helps with clarity, helps clear my mind, especially if like you put your phone away, you just go for a walk and just kind of enjoy being outside. I know it's freezing ass where a lot of us are right now, but like
minus 23 Celsius here today for me. So
bundle up, man, grow some balls. But no, it's like, even if you just walk on the treadmill, I know like walking on the treadmill, boring cardio, but at the end of the day, movement is really the key, right? So people at the office who are like, man, I just want the gym, I don't know what to do. I say start by scheduling, even if it's just a 5-minute walk around the office. I mean, think about how much time a lot of people waste at the office. If you just walk, or maybe if you're on the phone pacing around your office, or, if you schedule during lunch, like, hey, I'm going to go eat for 40 minutes and then I'm going to walk for 20 minutes. Like, there's so many ways to add up quite a bit of activity if you really do the math. Like if you're at the office for 8 hours and you say, hey, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes every hour, dude, that's 80 minutes of walking. Like that's a lot, and if you couple that with getting in the gym a few times a week, or working out at home with some kind of resistance, even if it's just body weight, you can transform really quickly. I mean, people always ask me like, dude, how do you get these, before and after pictures, like from all your clients and these programs you run? And I'm like, dude, it's because these simple little hacks that we put into their day, that over the course of 8, 12, 16 weeks, however long they work with us, that stuff adds up, man. And it's not hard. It's not hard like to go, dude, hey, cut out of lunch 20 minutes early, knock out 20 minutes of walking. I'm not telling them to go run wind sprints in the parking lot, I'm not telling them to do like, bring weights to your office, which, hey, if you want to do that, cool. But yeah, if you don't have access to that kind of stuff, just use what you got. Now, if people want to get crazy and they're like, how can I do a workout, man? Just understand that your body weight can be your biggest ally when it comes to getting in shape. There's so many ways to manipulate and utilize the own weight that we carry. by we're getting really, really good at advanced body weight movements, because people always are like, dude, how am I going to get in shape just doing push-ups and like squats with my body weight? Well, yeah, you might not look like a bodybuilder, but you can lose a lot of fat and you can start strengthening your joints, your muscle tissue, and you can make those exercises a lot harder if you use advanced movements and you combine some things in the right way to increase intensity. You can start to really push your body, man, and you can start to actually develop new tissue. And so that's really where the secrets lie, is in utilizing what you have, the resources that you have that don't require extra equipment or, doing some weird and getting all sorts of weird looks and stuff.
No, it's good. And a couple strategies that I have personally is that if I need to talk to someone that's in my building, I don't call or email. I walk to their office, right? Or I go see them. Like, what? No. If it'd probably take me longer to write out the email than it would to walk down, quickly talk to them, tell them what I need, and walk back to my office. So that's one of the things I do.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole idea of basically every time you're on the phone, stand up. We're all using cell phones these days. If you can get a standing desk, that's like a huge deal. I mean, I know it's not always easy to get a standing desk, but you can sometimes create your own. And even just doing standing for 15 minutes out of every hour at your desk is cool. Because I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to stand for 8 hours. I'm like, I totally get it. But just adding that to your day, it just compounds over time. Taking the stairs, not taking the elevator, parking like the furthest away, and then, finding a way to track your steps. I don't know if you're recording the video, but like on my phone, I have these free apps. I used to wear a Fitbit, but it got kind of annoying. And so now I have apps on my phone that will track my steps. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but I don't really care. It's really just about having a number to be able to look at and go, okay, where am I based off of this tracker? Because I carry my phone around most places. And so that can help you too with just monitoring how active or inactive you are each day.
Yep, for sure. Google has their Google Fit app, which you can download for free, and I believe iOS has their Apple something. I don't know, not an Apple.
There's one called Pacer too that is just an app that you can download from an app store, and that one seems to be the most accurate from what I've tested. But I mean, obviously, if you have a Fitbit or one of the other tracking devices, you can use that, and it's pretty accurate. But yeah, using that stuff is a really good tool to just be like, hey, this week in the office, I want to hit, 10,000 steps a day or whatever it is. And just having some goals to put in place so that you are more active while you're working.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. So just want to, slowly wrap up here. I got one more question for you before we start winding down. So if someone who hasn't been really working out is listening to the podcast now, and obviously is like, okay, this is something I need to do. How can they start out? What's the best way for them just to start?
Yeah. So, this is going to sound maybe a little backwards, but you need to take a really good inventory of where you are right now, right? You need to take a look back and say, how did I get to where I am today? Because here's what's going to happen, right? So, it's New Year's when we're talking right now. I don't know when this podcast will be released, but it's the beginning of the year, right? And people oftentimes are like, okay, this is the year I get in shape. This is it, man. 2017, I got really fat, and now it's time to, get rid of all that and get in great shape. And that's awesome. Like on the surface, that's cool. But most of the time, and this is partially due to society and the constant bombardment of advertisements and whatnot, but we're constantly looking for a solution, okay, to what we don't even know is a problem.
Yeah.
And so we have no idea what the problems really are, okay? And that might mean that, okay, we don't know how to train properly, or we don't know how to eat properly, or we don't even know what a calorie is, or we don't even know what a macro is, or all that stuff. Those could be potential problems that might not get solved by a solution that you decide to invest in, right? Or if you decide to invest in one at all. Or you might just say, okay, I'm going to Google something, and I'm just going to start a plan that comes up, right? More than likely, it's not going to address your actual problems. So the first step, man, for anybody looking to get started is, it's hard, but you got to take a look in the mirror and you got to be like, hey, what took me to where I am right now? So for me, when I gained 80 pounds, right, of fat when I was going through a really tough time, the things that led me to that point were emotional eating, right? I was stuffing my face. I was taking naps instead of going to the gym or working out when I should have been working out because it would have made me feel better. I was allowing life to control me versus me controlling life. And that was leading to tons of stress, right? And I hadn't addressed my emotional baggage from my youth and my childhood. Those were all problems that I couldn't solve by going to buy somebody's $50 ebook. I couldn't solve those problems by hiring a bodybuilder who charges, $2,000 to get me in shape for a contest. And the reason I can say this, I actually did that. Like, I actually hired people, and looking back, I wasted a lot of time and money because I wasn't fixing what needed to be fixed. And so, there's a reason why, like with our programs, we address the physical, mental, and also the nutritional side of transformation, because those three are usually one of those three is usually the main problem for most people. But finding out what your problem is the first step, man. So figuring out, how did I get out of shape? What are the things I'm doing? And maybe it could be a case that you don't know, and that's okay. That's a problem. But by you not knowing and admitting, I don't know how I got fat, dude. Like, I really don't know. I think I eat pretty healthy. I feel like I work out. That's cool. You need to get a solution that is going to help you figure out why you're out of shape, right? Instead of just buying some paleo cookbook or whatever, like, that's not going to solve your issue. That's for someone who doesn't know how to cook, right? So, like, that's step number one, okay? So once you've established what your problem is, then you need to set up an environment for success. Right? An environment for success means different things to different people. That might mean that you clear out the cupboard full of junk food that you can just not say no to, right? Like for me, you have Nutella in my house, bro, it's getting eaten. Like, Godspeed to the Nutella. If I'm around Moscow mules, I can't not drink them, right? Like, that is my drink, and if it's around, I'm crushing it, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you have these food weaknesses. That's totally fine, man. We all do, right? And so eliminating those from just like arm's reach is a good idea. So the environment for success, that could also mean getting support from the people you love the most, who are in your house, who are, eating with you. And you're like, hey, dude, we eat pizza 3 times a week. Like, we got to chill out. Like, we got to stop that. Right. And having these tough discussions with people in your environment also could be work environment. You might need to start bringing food to work so that, the lunches at work and the snacks and all the stuff that's around is replaced by your choices, right? The things you want to have in your life. It might mean, joining a gym that's closer to your house, man. The list goes on and on, right? But the environment you set up is going to be huge when it comes to your transformation. So address the problem, set up the environment. And then third, man, the habits and routines, right? What are the habits and routines that are going to help you get in shape? Well, thing to remember here is it's really, really challenging to just completely shift your habits and routines. And I'm going to give kind of the secret to improving your habits and routines. This won't be perfect. You're not going to overnight become like this machine, right? Despite what people think or despite what people tell you. What you need to do is you need to take a look at your daily routines. You need to take a look at, kind of going back to what your problem is. What does your routine look like right now? What are the habits that you have in place? And the big thing to remember here is it's not going to be easy to change the habit right away, but it'll be much easier to change the routine. Okay. And what that means is this. I always use the analogy that I went through when I was trying to lose weight. I would get pissed off. I would lose a client, drive home from the office, crying, stressed out, like my life is over. I'd swing by Taco Bell because it was like $2 to get like 10 soft tacos or something, right? That was my habit. I'm upset, Taco Bell time. Cool. Well, that would lead to a carb coma and Netflix and sleep and waking up feeling like shit. So I couldn't stop necessarily wanting to eat when I was stressed out. That wasn't necessarily easy, right? Because that's a habit. That's a habit that's ingrained pretty damn deep in my mind. But what I decided to do, and what looking back, I was fortunate enough to get some advice and have people who helped me with this stuff. But the most valuable thing was switching up my routine. So I wouldn't actually stop going to Taco Bell. I would still go to Taco Bell. And the one thing I started to change right away was, instead of ordering a regular soda, I just got a diet soda, right? Yep. And that's it. That was the first thing I did. Dude, that cut out like 80 grams of sugar. Like, oh my God.
Instantly.
Yeah, that's like almost 400 calories. So it's like, okay, I just cut 400 calories, and I still got the enjoyment of, not saying Diet Coke's healthy, so don't take words out of my mouth. Occasionally, if you want a Diet Coke, enjoy it. But like, look, it got me away from all the sugar that's in regular Coke and replaced it with empty calories or empty soda that has no calories, whatever you call it, right? And that started to impact how I felt. Like, okay, I can do this. Diet Coke's not so bad. So then the next step was when I went to Taco Bell, instead of ordering the beef tacos, I got the healthier version, chicken tacos. Okay, cool. I just saved myself another 400 calories. And then it was like, you know what, dude, I'm just going to fucking make my own tacos. Like I'm wasting so much money. Let me just go to the store and make healthier tacos at home. They taste just as good. In fact, they taste better.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Boom. All of a sudden, now don't get me wrong. I'm making this sound so fucking easy, but at the end of the day, you have to look at the routines and habits that you have right now. And it could be like, if you have trouble going to work out, just going for a walk, at home. Like, don't go to the gym. And I always tell people too who like, well, dude, I'm just so tired. I don't want to go to the gym. Like, it's like really tough to get in the habit of that. Okay, cool. I understand because you're thinking about the whole workout, right? You're thinking about, man, I got to get there, and then it's an hour, and then my chest is going to hurt. Man, my arms are going to be like so sore. That's the whole workout. Just go do one thing, right? Just go do one thing. Go to the gym and do 4 sets of crunches, right? And leave. Once you're done with that, just leave. What'll end up happening is you'll go and you start, okay, that wasn't that bad. Let me start doing this. Maybe I'll do some arms. Okay, maybe I'll do my whole routine today. Okay, I can do this, And so don't try to change the habit. Don't try to change the habit right away. You will eventually change the habit. Work on the routines that are built into these habits, right? And that's going to be the secret to really transforming. And some low-hanging fruit to give your listeners, because they're like, what the fuck is this, all this guru shit? But in reality, the few habits I always tell people to start with, once you've taken care of what the problem is, the environment, and you've kind of done an analysis of your habits and routines, focus on tracking what you eat and tracking how much activity you do.
Yeah.
Those two things are going to be incredibly valuable long-term, because those are going to be the two areas that you can always come back to if you ever feel like you're slipping or losing progress or not making enough progress. Track your food. It's so easy. Write it down or use an app like MyFitnessPal just to take an analysis.
Huge, man.
Yeah, it's huge. It's so easy. And then with the apps, like we mentioned before, with tracking your activity, those two things, man, could be a game changer.
And for all the listeners out there, I'm going to have all these apps and all Josiah stuff all linked up in the show notes. If you just go to movingforleadership.com/podcast/Novak, and it'll all be listed there in the show notes. So, no, that's huge, man. That's awesome. Anything else to add to that, or did I totally cut you off or anything?
No, I think that's a good place to start, man. I mean, you could always tack on things like drink more water, get a little better sleep. But, keep it simple.
For sure.
Always get to the advanced stuff later.
For sure. So I just got one last question before we wrap up here, and that's something I ask all my guests. Hopefully you don't hear my dog growling in the background. But anyway, I ask all my guests, what makes a great leader in your mind?
Example. So leading by example.
Awesome.
doing the tough shit, man. I'm sure a lot of people have said that, but it really is the truth. If you can't, do what you preach, then good luck establishing any kind of movement. Good luck getting anybody to get off their ass, or good luck getting anybody to take you seriously. You have to lead yourself first, man. That's it. Bottom line.
No, that's awesome. 2 points to that. I think you're around 20-something guests I've had on the show, and you're the first one to actually say lead by example. And the second point, the second thing is that is actually one of my foundations, leadership, in my ebook, which you can also find in the show notes.
Sweet. Shameless plug. I got you.
Speaking of shameless plugs, it's your turn, man. Feel free to 30-second shameless plug.
Awesome. Yeah. So if anybody wants to connect with me on social media, man, it's just at Josiah Fitness on pretty much every station, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. YouTube is a little sketchy. You just got to do youtube.com/true transform. But if you just want to get more information and a lot of free resources, we have a blog, we have a lot of free guides that we give away. Just go to thetruetransformation.com. And there's a bunch of stuff there. I mean, right now, we're getting ready to close the doors on our 8-week January kickoff program, which is our True 8 program. But we'll have another one starting up probably in February. So if anybody wants to get more information on that, just go to thetruetransformation.com and you'll be able to get everything that's out there.
Oh, it's awesome. And by the time the show gets released, it'll be a bit too late for your True 8, but definitely for the February one, it'll be she'll be ready to roll. Full disclosure, I am a client of Josiah's, and everything he says, it's truth. I definitely see a difference since I showed up with him, and hence why I had to have him on my show. So, no, man, thanks for all the help that you've given me since I've showed up to your crew.
Oh man, it's always humbling and an honor to hear that kind of stuff. It never gets old. So man, I'm so happy that you're a part of my group. You've been a valuable resource too for me as well in business and whatnot. So thank you for that. I'm honored to be on the show. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's great. All right, for the listeners out there, as always, I have my key takeaways following in about 3 seconds your time. All right, take care, all. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that interview there with Josiah Novak and myself. Awesome guy. He's a heck of a coach, and everything he says in there is truth. So we got 3 key takeaways as always for you right now. The first one is, to help others, you first need to help yourself. And as leaders, this is kind of like the reason why we exist, is to help others. You know, if that's from developing them further, or even, you know, our customers, our bosses, whatever it is, our true raison d'etre is to help others. So to do so, you do need to help yourself first. And, you know, and you use the airplane analogy, where that's the reason why they ask you to put your oxygen mask on first by helping someone else. Because if you don't help yourself, you can't help others. And fitness is definitely one of the key ways to do so, right? And you heard all the benefits in there, from reducing stress to increasing focus to clearing your mind, etc. It's all in there. The second key takeaway, and the dovetail from that, is exercise helps your brain. And I hear that from Josiah, who's a fitness expert. And then if you listen to another podcast called Quick Brain with Jim Quick, who is a brain expert, he talks all about this as well, and that fitness for him helps exercise his brain and makes it better. And as leaders, we need our brains. We need to be able to critically think. We need to be able to be decisive. All these hard brain activities. So yeah, fitness helps it. So get on it. And then the final key takeaway is, it all starts with mindset. Having the right mindset. Why are you wanting to be fit? Is it because you want that look? Or is it because you want to be sharper? Or is it because you want to be able to run around with your kids at night when you get home from work? Why are you looking to be more fit? And it all starts with the mindset, right? And life is like that. Everything, you know, mind over matter. It's all about mindset. So just keep that in mind. I hope you enjoyed the interview today. And if you enjoyed the interview and then you enjoyed the show, then please swing by iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever you're listening to this podcast, and leave me a 5-star review. Let others know out there about the Moving Forward Leadership podcast and the movement which I'm creating to make better leaders out there, regardless of where you are in your life or in society. It doesn't matter. We all need leadership. So go ahead, leave a review, a 5-star review. Share this podcast, and finally subscribe, because you definitely don't want to miss another episode. There are awesome episodes lined up for you, including this one was 29. Number 35 will be 35 leadership lessons from a 35-year-old, and that was going to be all from me. Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, remember, keep pushing, keep trying, keep moving forward. Take care now.